Apex beasts of the stars. High Warlord Carr stood on the obsidian balcony of the Devourer of Suns, watching the orange fires consume yet another defenseless world. The screams of its insectoid inhabitants, a now extinct species known as the Thillery, echoed through the calms like music. The Vorgak fed on fear, and Carr, like all his kind, believed himself a god. "Report," he growled. A lesser commander, four arms trembling, mandibles clattering, approached with the grace of someone who feared being torn apart. "Sector Delta 5 ceased transmission. Hunter Units 8 through 12 are missing." Carr's claw twitched. Another failed recon? No debris. No signals. Just gone. Sensors picked up brief spikes and heat signatures. Then nothing. "Send more," Carr snapped. "Double strength." The subordinate nodded and skittered away. Carr turned back toward the firestorm below. Another species purged. Another name carved from the galactic record. To the Vorgak, domination was inevitable. Civilizations existed only to be hunted and extinguished. Their allies, the Krull, the Bloodfangs, the Scath Dominion, joined them in feasting on the weak. No one had challenged them in centuries. No one dared. But something had changed. Within hours, the next wave of units went dark. Not disabled, not destroyed, missing. Entire cruisers vanished without a single distress call. Only one ship returned, Scout Vessel 9 Vor. Its pilot was found in the cockpit, raving, bloodied, curled into a fetal position. He died minutes later, still screaming. What they recovered from the ship's black box chilled even the hardened warlords of the Vorgak. A flickering video log showed a boarding attempt. Massive, armored insectoid soldiers breaching a derelict vessel. Inside, they encountered silence. Then something moved. Something fast. In a blur of motion, two of the soldiers were ripped in half. Not blasted. Not vaporized. Torn by blades, claws, hands. The footage cut to static, then briefly returned to show a shape. Tall, humanoid, covered in dark armor, red lights glowing from its helmet like eyes of a demon. It looked at the camera, raised a blade, then nothing. "That wasn't a creature," one of the junior commanders whispered. "That was a man." "No," Carr snapped, but even he sounded uncertain. "No species fights like that. Not anymore." A low tremor rippled through the ship. Carr turned toward his inner chambers, only to find blood smeared across the floor. One of his personal guards lay in pieces. The second's headless body slumped against the bulkhead, a jagged steel knife embedded where its chest plate had once been. On the wall, a single word was written in thick red strokes. "Ancient. Forgotten. Terran." Carr stumbled back. His species didn't bleed easily, but now he felt cold. "Sound the alarm," he whispered. But the ship's alarms were already blaring. In the darkness, something moved. And for the first time in his monstrous life, High Warlord Carr felt something he had never known. Fear. Deathworlders awakened. Dr. Zari Thon adjusted his visual membrane as the footage replayed for the sixth time. Despite being a Zeltor, one of the galaxy's most advanced cerebral species, even his three brains struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. The screen flickered between chaotic combat and disjointed sound. Jagged shadows, screams of Vorgak soldiers, and then the image that haunted him, a bipedal figure, humanoid, emerging from the smoke like a ghost from a nightmare. Silent, calculating, absolutely lethal. "This is not a known species," Zari whispered, his tendrils twitching. "You're wrong," said a voice behind him. Agent Selrek Varn, the Krull envoy to the Joint Predator Coalition, stood watching with narrowed eyes. His reptilian scales glistened with unease. "This is no alien. It's ancient, from the Death World archives. Category 7R. Zari's heart skipped. That world was purged. Selrek nodded grimly. "Or so we believed. Earth, a name buried in redacted files. Home to a species marked as hyper-aggressive, dangerously adaptive, and socially volatile. The Council had labeled it a terminal threat after their infighting reached planetary annihilation levels. No diplomatic contact. No peace. They were assumed extinct. What if, Selrek muttered, they survive? Zari turned to the biological remains on the table. A dismembered Vorgak scout retrieved from a derelict ship. Its carapace was shattered in multiple places, not by energy weapons, but by blunt force. Something had shattered its exo-ribs with surgical precision. Zari gestured to the bone fractures. This required over 1,500 newtons of force. No known species has that strength ratio. Except Terran's, Selrek finished. A silent alarm pulsed. Code red breach on level 3. An automated voice shrieked across the lab. Security screens lit up. Red lights flashed. Screaming guards. Firing plasma. Then a blur, dark armor, a curved blade, and movement faster than anything organic should allow. Selrek froze. They found us. The lights cut. In the emergency dark, Zari caught a glimpse through the reinforced observation glass. A human. Not as the legends depicted. Not savage. Not monstrous. But cold. Efficient. Stripped of all mercy. The figure stared directly at the camera. A scar ran across his face beneath a black tactical helmet. He lifted a small device and pressed it. The lights returned, but the lab doors now read, "Lockdown override engaged." Zari's voice trembled. Why now? Why reveal themselves? A second figure appeared next to the first. Female. Slim. Carrying a data disruptor. She looked in the camera, then spoke, her voice clear, calm, and cruel. You shouldn't have hunted our colonies. You shouldn't have taken our children. You thought we died. We trained. The screen cut to black. Far above the research outpost, a fleet of Predator warships approached, thinking they were arriving at a scientific retreat. They didn't know the humans were already inside, and they had come to send a message. Operation Predator Fall. Captain Ilya Vostrikov stood at the center of the war table aboard the Black Winter, surrounded by a dozen operatives clad in matte black exosuits. Red lights pulsed softly across the holographic map of 5 Predator strongholds. One by one, they flickered, marked for elimination. Today, Vostrikov began. We finish what they started. He tapped a control node. Target data illuminated. Each planet bore names humanity hadn't forgotten. Garen Hive, where the Vorgak butchered Earth colonists for sport. Drow's Maw, where human children were displayed in cages. And Kvel Station, where no one was left alive. Raul Mendez cracked his knuckles. We finally putting these bastards in ground. Not just them, Arya Kane added. Their legacies. Their species' fear-based empires. No more warnings. She slid her data slate forward. Insertion windows calculated. We'll hit them in sequence. Precision strikes. Ghost raids. Confirmation? Ilya asked. Kane nodded. We've tracked their fleets. They're watching the wrong systems. Still trying to find our homeworld. Vostrikov chuckled. Let them look. The humans had no true home anymore. Not after Earth was poisoned in the first planetary bombardments. What remained of humanity fled into the deep void, cut off from the galaxy, presumed extinct. But they didn't die. They evolved. They built hunting ships, silent bases, a language of vengeance written in code and flame. Where predators ruled through terror, humans became the ones monsters feared. Ilya looked around the room. Veterans, orphans, ghosts in black armor. Each one had lost everything. Each had trained in the crucibles of ruined moons, abandoned stations, death world simulations. No empire had ever fought them and survived. Until now, humanity had remained a myth, revenge delivered through surgical raids and whispered warnings. Now, the myth would become war. Drow's Maw. Mendez dropped like a comet, his armor's kinetic dampeners glowing blue. He landed among a squad of Krull shock troopers and tore them apart in seconds. The nanoblade danced through flesh and bone. One managed to scream before his throat was crushed. Behind him, a drone swarm deployed, shredding comm towers and sensor grids. Over the comms, Kane's voice echoed. 2 minutes to extraction. Leave nothing. Kvel Station. Arya Kane walked through the data center like a shadow. No gunfire. No alarms. Just severed cables and dead eyes. She planted a quantum disruptor on the core. Before she left, she uploaded a single video to the Predator network. survivors from a human nursery, held in cages, faces gaunt but defiant. Her voice followed. Your monsters created us. Your cruelty forged the blade that cuts you now. As explosions rippled across the 5 systems, predator fleets scrambled, too late. By the time they arrived, the humans were gone. No broadcasts, no demands, just wreckage, blood, and silence. On every site, scrawled in the old Terran script, was the same phrase. We are the storm you sowed. Vostrikov stood before the final red dot on the map, Krull Prime, heart of the Predator Alliance. He looked at his team. One last hunt, and they all nodded. They were not ready. The skies over Krull Prime burned crimson as the Black Winter emerged from subspace, silent and alone. No fanfare, no warning, just one Terran ship drifting toward the capital world of the Predator Alliance. Inside the command chamber of the Krull High Nexus, panic had taken root. They wouldn't dare strike here, rasped Supreme Warlord Garthon, his armored talons twitching. Not at the heart of the galaxy's strongest alliance. They already are, murmured Minister Relke, showing a feed from orbital sensors. Human drop pods, black, angular, bearing no flags, rain from the sky. Thousands of them, each marked with a single symbol. Earth, Relke whispered. They came from Earth. On the ground, fire and smoke spread as Terran operatives tore through defense lines. Their armor absorbed plasma fire. Their movements were silent, efficient, relentless. They fought like predators who had studied every weakness of their prey. Because they had. Captain Ilya Vostrikov strode through the central corridor of the Warlord Citadel, his squad behind him. Walls littered with claw marks and corpses. Blood smeared across the floors. Predator elites lay in crumpled piles, torn apart with mechanical precision. He paused a massive door. Inside, Garthon and the last of the council waited. They had activated the final defense grid, sealing themselves within an energy dome. Cowards, Vostrikov thought. He activated a small device. Seconds later, the dome collapsed. Arya Kane walked forward and addressed the cowering warlords. We remember the nursery planets, the burning colonies, the prisoners displayed as trophies. You hunted us like prey, Mendez growled. Now you learn what it's like. Garthon bared his fangs. We are the apex, the rightful rulers of this galaxy. You are broken, scattered survivors. Vostrikov stepped forward, eyes like frozen steel. Survivors adapt. That's why we win. And he fired. Across the galaxy, live feeds broadcast the final fall of Krull Prime. Billions watched in stunned silence as Terran forces razed Predator strongholds, destroyed war fleets, and systematically dismantled the alliance that once ruled through fear. The Galactic Council, who had watched and allowed it all for centuries, now sat paralyzed in their chambers. They're not just fighting, whispered a Lorkai ambassador. They're erasing them. No, they're sending a message, another corrected. And it was true. The Terrans didn't stay. They didn't conquer. They left, silent as they came, their ships disappearing into the void. All they left behind were the ruins of monsters and the fear they'd return. Back aboard the Black Winter, as the stars shifted past the viewports, Arya Kane spoke softly. We warned them. Mendez lit a cigarette. They didn't listen. Vostrikov nodded, watching the ashes of Krull Prime fade into the dark. They will now. Final log entry. Terran Operative Network. Let be known, we were never monsters. But we learned from them. You thought we were prey. You were not ready. We are Terran, and we hunt monsters.